Good evening, TradeFlare family. Welcome to the Nightly Breakdown, where we do a technical analysis of the SPY and 5 stocks to give you guys a better idea of what we're looking at into tomorrow. So before we dive into some plays as well as our index analysis, let's look at our sector ETFs to get an idea of the market breadth. So headed into our sector analysis here, I really want to take a deeper look into the XLK, the XLF, the XLI, and the XLP headed into tomorrow. So first looking at our XLK, which is going to be our heaviest weighted sector, and looking at our tech sector here, we had a strong gap up, long body green continuation candle, and this move was strongly contributed to by Apple, Microsoft, PayPal, and Adobe here. So this is the XLK by weight. Apple, Microsoft, PayPal, and Adobe really they made the biggest moves today, and they have the most weight to pull. So keeping that in mind, we also had some notable moves in Cisco, Intel Core, Accenture, Avago, and Texas Instruments, Qualcomm, and Oracle. So those low beta value techs were doing decent, starting to pick up there, but we really saw some steam in Apple, Microsoft, PayPal, and Adobe. So keeping that in mind, notice we did have a strong day in the tech sector, but not everything was green. So a lot of the semiconductors were down, AMD was down, IBM was down, Micron was down. So these are stocks that usually run with the tech sector. So they were, a sign of weakness there in the tech sector, as we just getting most of the pull from the big techs. So before we head into our next sector, I want to pull up the market internals and show you what I mean by divergence and breadth. And so as you can see here, even as we went higher, the breadth in the NASDAQ was weak, and the breadth in the New York Stock Exchange was actually leaning negative. So looking at the VOLD here, which is going to compare the volume in up stocks in the New York Stock Exchange versus the volume traded in down stocks in the New York Stock Exchange. It's going to subtract them, and as you can see here, there was more volume in traded in down stocks in the New York Stock Exchange today than there were traded in up stocks. Over here, the ADD is going to compare advances to declines in the New York Stock Exchange, and as you can see here, there were more declines today than there were advances in the New York Stock Exchange. And our tick skew was definitely leaning towards negative. So more tick readings were actually picking up and accumulating down lower below the zero line, which is technically bearish for the New York Stock Exchange. So keeping that in mind, we have this divergence in our breadths, and that could point towards a sign of weakness in the market. So keeping that in mind as we're looking at our SPY, our Qs, our IWM, and our Dow into tomorrow. Next up, looking at our XLF for our financials, and this is going to pose a bearish trading opportunity here, as we printed a bearish engulfing candle right off of this resistance trend line, which we've backed off of 3 times now pretty aggressively. So keeping that in mind, and as we've been discussing in the Discord, we think that banks could sell off here into September. One correlation we want to point out is the TLT and XLF correlation that we keep looking at and keep mentioning, and that definitely existed today again. So as TLT was up, XLF was down. As more pressure is going, or as more buyers are headed into the bonds, XLF is not liking that. So keeping that in mind, look for this relationship, look for this correlation. As XLF goes down, TLT goes up. And as you can see here, TLT looking fairly bullish. So if TLT it trades fairly technical, so TLT could potentially trade bullish, and that would not bode well for the XLF. So we are in puts for the XLF, and we are up on those at the moment. So keeping that in mind as we trade into the rest of the week. XLF, as TLT takes off, XLF could be a potential bearish trade idea. Next up, looking at the industrial sector, and here just an interesting level here at a resistance trend line, and we are starting to see some resistance, volume starting to fade. Sellers could definitely pounce on this thing right now, and we could definitely, if we do take out today's low around 104.56, I'd expect to go lower, at least to around probably these lows around 101. So this could definitely pose a decent bearish trading opportunity in the XLI. So watch out for this one. So the last one we're going to look deeper into is the XLP, or the consumer staples sector, and this one was up today, and technically I liked that we pulled back and respected previous highs, remaining in an uptrend, and this could be pointing towards another value run where banks get left behind. Look to see if the XLP and the XLU pick back up and start running like we were before tech stole the whole show. So keep that in mind. XLU, XLP both starting to get a little bit more energy after a period of consolidation. If we do start to see a rush into bonds, I would expect to see the XLP and the XLU start to get some more steam as well. So keep that in mind as we're watching the market tomorrow. The XLU and the XLP would be a sign of a move into safety or a move into value. So keep that in mind. As far as our other sectors, there is going to be some more home data tomorrow that could keep pulling on the XLRE. Also look for any reaction from the XLY as we get consumer confidence tomorrow at 9. So looking at our indices, the QQQ was leading the way while the banks and the industrials dragged down the S&P. On the downside, we had small caps in the Dow. So as you can see, lack of breadth here and a divergence within the tech sector and the rest of the market. Now let's head into some of our plays. So first looking at Workday, and this is a potential earnings continuation play. And if we zoom into the 1 hour here, then we can see that we are forming a bullish pennant up here, and these previous highs out here, are acting as the support for this bullish pennant. So looking for this thing to pull back down, retest the support a little bit more, and then look for this thing to break this resistance trend line, and then we can look at this 273.63 level to break. Then we're basically climbing the ladder up to 274.84 here. If we do get that 275 break, that's when we start to treat this as a bull flag continuation, and then we can potentially head up all the way, poor structure pretty much all the way up to around 282.77. So keeping this one in mind as we head into this week. Workday is kind of matching up with some of those tech companies, or some of those critical infrastructure technology companies, the high margin companies that are related to those to the critical infrastructure technology. An example would be Adobe, Oracle, Cisco, and those have all been trading up. As you can see down here, we had Oracle up, we had Intel Core up, Cisco up, Adobe up. So keeping that in mind, this one can kind of fit into that category, and it can kind of run with those. So keeping this one in my watch list headed into tomorrow. Next, looking at Capital One to the short side, and this one got downgraded today, pretty big downgrade. They were downgraded by Baird to around $145, so that's their price target for this one. Seeing this much volume come in with this no lower shadow, I'm expecting more sellers to pounce on this thing headed into tomorrow. Looking to take this trade if we flush through that 165 level, and if we do see more volume through that 163 level and that 50-day moving average. So that 50-day moving average is kind of going to act as the line in the sand there. We've generally respected that 50-day moving average, trading mostly above it. So keeping that in mind, if we aggressively sell through that, it could get a little bit ugly here in Capital One Financial, as we have that downgrade and just overall not a bullish setup for the financial sector. So something to keep in mind here, looking for bearish trades in Capital One. Next up is PayPal, and PayPal had news today that they were getting into building a trading platform, and they shot up on this and broke out of this reverse head and shoulders, and now it looks like we could head to fill in this gap. Notice this volume, definitely looking for this gap fill with that volume, that type of energy heading into tomorrow. We've got a decent wick here as we tried to fill a gap, came back in, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of consolidation, maybe a little flag, and then a fill into the gap then we could probably target that 295 level. Keep in mind, this one also likes to run a little bit with crypto because they do allow for crypto trading now on Venmo, and they just have crypto. They're working on crypto compatibility with PayPal and stuff like that. So keeping this in mind, this one and Square like to run with crypto in that crypto space, and we have seen these crypto stocks running. So next up on the watch list is I'm looking at Tesla, and Tesla could be geared up for more higher highs. So as we've seen here, we've made higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and we've continued this uptrend recently. We've broken out of this downtrend, and if you pull this thing out to the monthly, it just looks like a huge bullish pennant. It looks like we could go higher. We're just continuing this move, pulling back, consolidating a little bit, continuing this move. Nothing insanely bearish about Tesla and the way the technicals look right now. If we do start to see volume pick up through this 730 level, I would expect a quick move to the 750 level. If that 750 level, at that 750 level, we start to test that these highs. We don't really want to cherry pick these highs yet, but if those highs should act as some sort of resistance, and I would expect them to break. If we do end up flying through that 750 level, I would expect that 781 level to break, and this would continue a bullish trend for Tesla. So keep in mind, this one can break out. We know they're not just a car company, they're a robotics company as well, and there's a lot of advancements. We saw, what's going on with the Tesla bot and all that stuff, and that could cause some more hype, especially in a volatile month like September. You could start to see some meme traders starting to pick up as more volume comes in for the short side. So keep that in mind. Tesla could be a trade to the upside here. So last up, I'm looking at CVS, and like I mentioned, I'm looking for a little bit of a shift to value, and CVS also has a nice edge with boosters being sent out and talked about. And on the daily here, we've got a nice little bull flag pulling right back to this 50% retracement, which is beautiful for a bull flag. It's right where you want it to go. We're looking for this thing to trade above this resistance trend line, right around 84.75. If we do take out that 84.75, I would be interested in a trade all the way, or a trade probably up to around $87, or at least to these highs around 86. We'd probably climb the ladder, first headed to 85.82. So definitely looking for a swing trade here in CVS. So first, definitely could play out if we see a move to value and more hype about the booster and revenue coming in from that. So keeping a close eye here on CVS, we could potentially break out and head to all-time highs around $90. So something to keep in mind. CVS could be a potential play headed into this week. And that wraps up tonight's nightly breakdown. If you enjoyed the video, if you gained value, make sure you hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any live or educational content. If you're looking to join our premier trading community, then check out the link in the description below. Join our Discord, upgrade to TradeFlare Pro to get full access to our whole Discord. Claim to be the stock market is risky and you could lose money. And as always, you cannot forget that time is your most valuable asset. Quit wasting it. Get up, get out, and go get it, my friend.